Tim is with us in St. Paul, Minnesota. Hi, Tim. Welcome to the Ramsey Show.
Hey Dave, how's it going?
Better than I deserve. How can I help?
So I'm debt free. I've been debt free for almost 2 years. I'm 22 years old. I have a full time job. I still live with my parents, so I really don't pay anything to them for rent or anything. I just pay for my car and my phone insurance. And I'd like to get out of the house. But just with the market, it kind of seems unreasonable to buy right now, and rent is outrageously expensive. So I guess I'm just looking for some guidance on what I should do.
Okay.
How much do you earn?
I make about $27 an hour, roughly about 50,000 a year, I think is what it comes out to.
Mm-hmm. Good for you. What do you do?
What's that?
What do you do?
I'm a public service worker. I work for a city in public works.
Okay, cool. All right, fun.
Well, my first thought is, having been 22 years old and struggled to get out and figure out how to make ends meet when you first move out is roommates. I mean, you can rent by itself if you're trying to get a one-bedroom apartment. That's super expensive. But if you're willing to split it with somebody else, you can really reduce cost. How do you feel about that? Would you be willing to live with other people?
Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely have, I have friends that are just not in the same position, just aren't ready to front money to move out. And so I guess, I mean, that's an option that I have looked into. It's just hasn't been one that's at the top of my list, I guess.
Well, you make a good income, and I mean, you probably could actually afford an apartment if that's what you really want. But if you don't have friends that like in your immediate circle that need roommates, I mean, I know for me, I often lived off campus in the summers, and I had times where I had to ask a friend of a friend or just kind of coordinate with other people and maybe not live with all my best friends, but I got to live with people who were decent enough and made ends meet for me.
Yeah, and they paid the bill, and so that's helpful. Tim, the way I always look at these things is on the short term, there's no problem here. But this is a bad long-term plan, this living in your parents' house, right?
Right, exactly.
And so at some point, we have to launch. Now, what does that look like? And rather than just looking at what it costs today is, where do I want to be if I'm 22? Where do I want to be when I'm 30? What do I want my life to look like? And what is the best route to get me there? My personal experience as a dad is that you will have things develop in you when you have to buy your own gallon of milk and you have to fold your own socks and stuff. And I'm not saying you're lazy, but I'm just saying that when there's no milk unless you go to the store and get it, when there's no electricity unless you keep it on, something happens in your personal development that is good for you. Do I want you to go bankrupt because of that? No, I don't. But when my oldest came home from college, we told her she could stay for a little while until she could get situated, get settled into the new job, and gather up some roommates. And so she stayed with us about 3 months. And honestly, that kid is an easy kid like you. She wasn't a bother. She could have still be there, wouldn't bother us, But it wasn't good for her long term. And so we said, about 3 months, you need to get out. And I watched her personality shift a little when she moved out. I watched her square her shoulders and throw them back a little bit. She walked a little taller. She had a little different level of dignity, and easier to get a date when you don't live with mom and all that kind of stuff. And so, all these things start to develop. And so I'm going to recommend, as Papa Dave, not Financial Dave, that you go ahead and start looking really aggressively about getting out. And it has nothing to do with math. It has everything to do with your emotional, psychological, manhood development. And I'm not panicking about it. I'm not calling you a pansy. I'm not any of that. I'm just saying, it's long term. By Christmas, if I were in your shoes, I would be out on my own. Now, that also, I think, now back to Financial Dave, I think what I would do is, I'm with Christina on the roommate thing. The other thing I would do is I'm going to shop around because I think you're a sharp young guy. And if you could find a garage apartment over the top of a garage out back of some rich old lady's house, and she would just love having Tim there because Tim makes her safer because Tim maybe mows the grass or cleans the gutters. I don't know. You might get the deal of the century on that if you can find it. Now, it's a bit of a needle in a haystack, but it's worth looking around for and, talking to the pastor over at your church and going, hey, where's the rich old lady with the garage apartment? I need to talk to her, or rich, sweet, elderly lady. But whatever you want to call it. I don't know, but I mean, she's going to like Tim showing up, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. I think that's a great in-between, too, because there's still kind of that homey comfort where it sounds like he's having a little bit of a tough time, making that transition. So it's like that's a good middle
I've watched
ground.
young married couples at 22 do that exact same thing, and they get that rental, and it's not, it's not not the resort apartment complex with 17 pools and racquetball courts and skylights and jacuzzis, right? It's not got all that stuff, but who gives a crap? You're getting started, man. You're 22. And, so that's how I would do it. I would start figuring out a way to pull this off. There's nothing on fire. You're not a bad person. It's not a rush. I'm not saying your parents did something wrong, you did something wrong, but you called and asked, and I'm not going to sit around and wait on rent to get reasonable because it ain't going to.
Well, that's a great question. That's great that he's calling and he has that fire in him. He's starting to feel that, maybe I don't want to be in the parents' house anymore.
Yeah.
It's a good start.
Now, some people leave home because they get thrown out. I mean, it's like violent and toxic, and it's not good, And so the good news is that Tim actually has wonderful parents and a wonderful relationship with them, so he doesn't have that pressure. He's not, because sometimes we get the call like, I got to get out of here, and so it's crazy over here, that kind of stuff. And he didn't have that, thank goodness. And my kids didn't have a lot of that, just me. But, but roommates are kind of a standard part of kicking out there sometimes.
Yep.
Sometimes renting something that's not fancy enough that your friends are impressed with your rental. By the way, that might be a sign. If your friends are impressed with your rental, maybe you got the wrong rental. Just an idea. Because it is a rental. Yeah, that's just something to think about, too. If your mom thinks it's awesome, you might have the wrong one, Yeah, there you go. Something to think about, Tim. But again, I admire you and I appreciate you calling, and I think you'll be a wonderful roommate or a wonderful help to the rich old lady in the garage apartment out back.